press.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel here. It's Lavender here, so let's get started into this video that I'm going to be doing. This is an anti-capitalism video, so let's get started into this video today. So today I wanted to talk about communism / communist phobia and how it is real. Yes, communism phobia is real.
Another part of covert action is disinformation, and the American people, in my estimation, are the primary target audience of the agency's disinformation operation. And I view Vietnam, the entire Vietnam War, was brought to us and sold to us by agency disinformation operations. When I say us, I mean the American people. Its relationship with the press. Well, it happens on many levels in many different ways. It could be a director of agency contact with the publisher, or it could be a lower-level agency employee with a lower-level person, managing editor. Agency people, and placing them in the news organization. Or it could be giving information to a reporter and winning his goodwill. It could be just a friendship sort of basis. It sort of covers the skein of relationships that you can have, in any social situation. This relationship demands participation on the part of the press. Well, how does it participate? It can participate in many ways. It can publish articles that the agency wants published. Knowingly publish it because the CIA wants it done, or unknowing? Yes. Well, both. Knowingly most of the time, I would guess. And sometimes the information is passed to a reporter as valid information, a good scoop, if you will, when it's just planted propaganda. The planting of articles is a routine. It's a daily thing that goes on. You have a theme that is developed, the anti-communist ideology. So you constantly are planting articles in newspapers in one country, and you pick it up and replay it in another country, and use the techniques of white, gray, and black propaganda. What's that mean? White propaganda is more or less a U.S. government statement. Everybody recognizes it as such. Gray propaganda is a statement. The sourcing is not quite clear. It's fuzzed up. Black propaganda would be if the agency would put out something, say, from the Communist Party of China and make it appear authentic. One good example of this, during the Cultural Revolution in China, the agency, through its radio transmitters on Taiwan, would come in at the tail end of radio broadcasts, mainland radio broadcasts, and they would pretend that they were just continuations of the program, and they would say, well, the situation is terrible in China.
The short history of communism phobia. The Red Scare is the promotion of widespread fear and potential rise of communism or anarchism by society or state. The term is most often to refer to two periods in the history of the United States in which they are referred to by this name. The first Red Scare, which occurred immediately after World War I, revolved around a perceived threat from the American labor movement, anarchist revolution, and political radicalism. The second Red Scare, which often occurred immediately after World War II, which was preoccupied with the perception that the national or foreign communists were infiltrating the United States society and the federal government of the USA. The name refers to the red flags typically used by communists. What came along with this was people claiming we are better dead than red. The Cold War is another example of this. The first Red Scare began following the Bolshevik Russian Revolution in 1917 and the subsequent wave of communist revolutions throughout Europe and beyond. Political Murray B. Lilvin wrote that the Red Scare was a nationwide anti-radical hysteria provoked by the mounting fear and anxiety that a Bolshevik communist revolution in America was imminent and a revolution that would change the American way of life. More communism phobia would be how the capitalist pigs try to push, propaganda through mainstream media, like anti-communism propaganda through mainstream media, and how the United States does coups in other countries who are doing socialism, because they don't want socialism, because they want to use the resources in those countries. They want to take the resources, whether those resources are diamonds, gold, oil, currencies that try to, outmaneuver the American dollar, etc. More communist phobia includes death threats and U.S. imperialism, etc.
The first to be imprisoned in this revolution were the Nazis' political opponents, communists and socialists, who were rounded up and thrown into hastily built concentration camps. Hermann Goering boasted that scores were being settled, all in an atmosphere of chaotic terror, as one Nazi stormtrooper admitted.
Und Brettchen, und da sagte er, das wäre eine schöne, das hat man so hingehalten, das wäre eine schöne Henkersmahlzeit für dich, aber selbst die bis. Und dann kam er noch einmal mit einem Strick und hat mir zeigen wollen, wie.
The regime here was brutal. Beatings and psychological torture were commonplace.
Ukraine appears to be heading down the road to fascism. Fascism invariably begins with the suppression of communist parties, with the serious erosion of democratic rights, and with attacks on free trade unionism. And we're seeing all of those things in Ukraine today. Not only communists, but socialists across the world will be stepping up the campaign against the pro-fascist regime in Ukraine.
So Indonesia, anti-communism propaganda runs rampant in this country. Anything that has to do with communism, aka Marxist-Leninism, was officially banned in the display of such symbols in an attempt to propagate communist or Marxist-Leninist ideals are considered a high treason, a crime, illegal, and could be punished by up to 20 years in prison. All for just, people wanting to, fight, for, rights and stuff. They'll literally throw activists in prison, Other socialist and left-wing related symbols, while not officially prohibited by law, as democratic socialism itself remained acceptable in the country, again, because it's it's not actual communism, are still widely condemned by the Indonesian government as being, closely related to communism in general. These include the Red Star, the Socialist Heartedry, the Red Flag, the anthems or slogans such as the International and the slogan Workers of the World Unite. The hammer and sickle has become systematized in the country, which itself is very similar to how Nazi symbolism is treated in the West in general. As such, displaying anything that is pro-communism symbols in public, even without any political intentions, is still regarded as highly offensive to the government of Indonesia. Indonesia is one of the first countries in the world to ban communist symbols as a whole. In April 2017, Indonesian police detained a Malaysian tourist at a hotel for wearing a t-shirt with an image of the hammer and sickle symbol, which is a communist symbol. The tourist was not aware that communist symbols were banned in Indonesia. The police seized the t-shirt and released the tourist after giving him a warning. In May 2018, a Russian tourist was also detained by police in Bali for displaying a Soviet Victor banner, which also contains the communist symbol. Ukraine! This one's not surprising at all because the Ukraine is literally run by Nazis now, so yeah.
weird, every time socialism failed in Africa, you can find a leader who was killed by the CIA. That is weird, isn't it? If socialism fails every time, why does the CIA have to kill socialist leaders? Why can't they just let the country fail? Did socialism fail in Burkina Faso under Thomas Sankara, when there were massive tree planting programs, school building programs, nationwide literacy campaigns, and making huge gains in gender equality? Or what about this? I thought socialism always leads to corruption. Sankara cut the salaries of government officials, including his own, banned flying first class, sold all the government Mercedes. The dude didn't even use air conditioning. So obviously under Sankara, socialism wasn't failing, which means the CIA and the French had to murder him. They collaborated with his second-in-command, killed him, and cut him up into pieces so they could scatter his parts when they were burying him. Socialism fails every time it's tried, and the CIA murders your leader and cuts them into little pieces.
Ew, I hate America. Then why do people try to illegally immigrate here?
Probably because you're less likely to get sanctioned, embargoed, cooed, and bombed by America when you're in America.
Welcome to Terrible Things the United States Has Done, Part 1. In this series, we're going to look at all the atrocities the United States commits but chooses to ignore. In 1962, John F. Kennedy personally approved Operation Ranch Hand. What was Operation Ranch Hand? Operation Ranch Hand kicked off the 11-year chemical war against Vietnam and Laos. The United States dropped 19 million gallons of Agent Orange over those countries. They tried to justify it by saying it was getting rid of vegetation cover that the US's opponents were using in this war. However, as early as 1964, American scientists were explaining how this will be detrimental to the environment and have awful human health impacts. Throughout the years, more research came forward explaining this, but the United States ignored it. This chemical ended up poisoning over 3 million people and causing over 1 million birth defects. And the United States and U.S. courts refused to give these victims compensation. Welcome to Part 5 of Terrible Things the United States Has Done. Today we're going to be talking about Richard Nixon and his secret carpet bombing campaign in Cambodia. The United States was bombing Cambodia since 1964, however, Richard Nixon drastically increased his efforts in 1969. The United States was not at war with Cambodia. This was during the Vietnam War. Cambodia was neutral in the war. However, Vietnamese soldiers used the border region as a supply route and station. These bombings were kept secret. One of the bombing campaigns, Operation Menu, was even kept secret from Congress. This was kept secret because a lot of Americans did not like the Vietnam War, and they went to great lengths to keep it secret. They created fake flight paths for their pilots, lying to them about their target's location. They went as far to burn records in a frickin' furnace to hide evidence. The US dropped 500,000 tons of bombs on Cambodia. This resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths of innocent Cambodians. The New York Times exposed the operation in '69. Hearings took place in '73 but was overshadowed by Watergate.
Y'all seen Anthony Bourdain's comments about Henry Kissinger? They are crazy. So this is Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State. And this is Anthony Bourdain, famous world traveler, TV food guy. You probably know who he is. And he is not like some kind of super big leftist. So keep that in mind when I read this quote. So Henry Kissinger was responsible for a huge US bombing campaign in Cambodia. He had this famous brutal quote where he said, "Crack the hell out of them. There is no limitation on mileage and there is no limitation on budget. Is that clear?" After visiting Cambodia, Bourdain had this to say: "Once you've been to Cambodia, you'll never stop wanting to beat Henry Kissinger to death with your bare hands. You will never again be able to open a newspaper and read about that treacherous, prevaricating, murderous scumbag sitting down for a nice chat with Charlie Rose or attending some black tie affair. Witness what Henry did in Cambodia, the fruits of his genius for statesmanship, and you will never understand why he's not sitting in the dock at the Hague." Bourdain just went off on this man, no mercy. Henry Kissinger, the man Anthony Bourdain said he wanted to beat to death. Kissinger served as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor under Nixon and Ford, and he was one of the main architects of the Vietnam War, one of the most deadly and senseless interventions of all time, in which the US dropped almost 400,000 tons of napalm on Vietnam. Kissinger was also responsible for Operation Menu, which dropped bombs on Cambodia in an effort to find Vietnamese communist camps, killing countless innocent civilians, which is why Anthony Bourdain, who's traveled Cambodia, hates Kissinger so much. Kissinger was also one of the murderous minds behind Operation Condor, which put dictators like Augusto Pinochet in power, and launched a campaign of murdering and torturing anyone with a left-leaning ideology in Latin America. Also, the US can get those sweet Latin American resources. They just need that Venezuelan oil. Henry Kissinger is a sick man. Only capitalism could create a person like
Nothing was ever enough.
You're the capitalist who does not care about the social consequences of his act.
I want to take the oil. I want the oil.
Amass billions through ruthless business decisions.
I am basically there to make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do.
Never apologize for the United States of America. Ever. I don't care what the facts are. I will lead her. I will do my level best to stand up for freedom and democracy around the world by keeping the United States of America strong and by keeping our eyes wide open as we welcome change in the world, but keeping our eyes wide open.
Oh my God. Oh.
So what can usually lead up to communism phobia is, for example, capitalist pigs don't want people to turn their backs on capitalism because capitalism enables them to exploit the workers and take the fruits of their labor and have it themselves and ride on the backs of the working class like parasites, while treating their employees like wage slaves, so they don't want, the sheep to wake up to that, and so that's why they push out, anti-communism propaganda on mainstream media, and go after all these countries who are promoting communism or anything that's against the United States' like imperialism's interests, because they don't want, communism to win, because then it'll take away their bougie lifestyles, so I think that's what leads up to it. For example, when employees are like going on strikes or whatever, or unions, they want to put a stop to it. So I really pretty much think that is why there is, what can lead up to communism phobia, because the capitalist pigs and the United States imperialists don't want to, they want to make money at any cost. Again, capitalism, the system, is a very evil, exploitative system. Capitalism puts, profits over, human lives every single day.